Every morning, Emerald Hollow wakes up the same way. Calm skies, clean rivers, and the quiet rhythm of a simple life. Each house opens to a new day of work and trade. Everyone has a role. The alchemist, the blacksmith, the farmer, all part of the same heartbeat of the village. Even the river gives back. Clear waters full of life, feeding both the people and their peace. Out in the fields, the farmer's work glows beneath the sun. The land stays fertile, the air stays clean, and the village thrives in balance. By the afternoon, the heart of Emerald Hollow beats loudest. Trade flows, laughter spreads, the reward for a day's honest work. And as the sun sets, the village quiets again. Emerald Hollow rests, untouched, untroubled, and unaware of the storm that's coming. That night, while Emerald Hollow slept beneath the moon, a stranger arrived, silent, cloaked, and carried by the sound of hooves. The peace of the village never even stirred. He took his first quiet steps into the sleeping village, as if walking through a secret he wasn't meant to see. Behind every window, there was peace. Families resting after a day's work, unaware that their calm world was already being measured and weighed. By the river, the water was clear and alive, untouched. Cold against his skin, and saw not life, but power waiting to be used. Morning returns to Emerald Hollow, but this dawn is different. Life tries to go on. Doors open, feet shuffle, trades begin. But above it all, the hill breathes smoke, the first sign that the balance has broken. The farmer's hands meet the earth, only to find it lifeless. The same ground that once fed them now turns against them. The cost of smoke, unseen until it touches the soil. Down by the river, even silence begins to die. The water darkens, clear no more. And what once shimmered with life now sinks without a sound. From the hill, the factory drains its veins, pouring greed into the stream, feeding death where there was once light. And above it all, the maker celebrates. Emeralds in hand, he dances on smoke, blind to the world beneath his feet. Profit rings loud, drowning every cough below.
Alright, so now that you've seen what these factories can do towards the village, you can see how every time the factory runs, it creates pollution, like those really dark smoke, and even water waste that are disposed in the river, which contaminates the water for the village, and the pollution that affects the villagers. Now that's external cost. Now, let's look at the graph. On the horizontal axis, or Q, we have the quantity of production, like how many tools and armors that are made. And on the vertical axis, or P, we have the price or the cost. Now, the demand curve. Here we can see that there are D equals MPB equals MSP. This basically just shows the marginal private and the social benefit, which basically just means how much value players get from each tool or armor. Then we have the two supply curves. The lower one, S equals MPC, stands for marginal private cost. That's the cost the factory owner faces when making each of the tool and armor. And the higher one, MSC, is the marginal social cost, which is like the real cost to society, including pollution and damages towards the environment. Because the factory ignores the pollution costs, it produces at QM, where the demand equals private cost, MPC. But the social optimal level is QOPT, where demand equals social cost, MSC. And that's the point where society's well-being is maximized. Then lastly, we can see in the graph that there is a shaded triangle between MSC and MPC. This is the welfare loss. That's the area showing how much society suffers because of the extra pollution and overproduction and all of those water waste that are being disposed in the river.
Okay, so now that we understand welfare loss, we've seen before that the pollution created by the factory brings negative impacts to the village, like how the smoke hurts the villagers, the rivers get dirty, and the animals start disappearing. Now, pollution is an external cost, a cost on others that you, the producer, don't pay for. Now let's look at the graph. On the x-axis, we have quantity, which is how much you want to produce. And on the y-axis, we have the price, or cost, which is the cost per unit. The demand curve shows the benefit that society gets from your production, while the supply curve shows your private cost, how much it costs you to make the product. But the social cost curve is higher because it includes the pollution and the damage done to others. At Q market, the factory produces too much. That's the market equilibrium, where demand meets private cost. But the socially optimal level is Q optimal, where demand meets the real cost to society. Between those 2 points is the problem: overproduction and welfare loss. The triangle labeled E represents that welfare loss, the total loss of benefit to society because of the negative externality. Now, what about the other letters? Areas like A, B, C, and D show the total costs and benefits if we were producing at the socially optimal level, Q optimal. When we move to Q market, producers get extra profit, but the external costs, like pollution, rise too. That shaded triangle E is where the marginal social cost is higher than the benefit, meaning society is worse off.
He carried no sword, no torch, only purpose. From the mist, he watched what greed had made of the once living valley. The air tasted of coal and sorrow. No words were spoken, only a letter left behind. A mark of consequence, a promise of balance. The law had arrived, not with fury, but with correction. The morning comes again, and the maker returns to his hill. A single letter: rules, restrictions, responsibility. For the first time, the cost of his wealth stood before him in ink. The factory still breathes, but no longer chokes. The air feels lighter. The price of progress, once ignored, now shared. He seals the waste, ending the flow of poison. The river he once darkened begins to whisper again. The village breathes anew. Crops rise. Water shines. Emerald Hollow lives again. Not because smoke stopped, but because its cost was finally paid. In every world, even Minecraft's, production has two sides: what we make and what we take. When one factory grows, sometimes the air, the soil, or the people pay the price. Economists call this a negative production externality, when private profit ignores the public cost. The factory's owner once saw only his emeralds, not the smoke that burdened everyone else. But when the law stepped in, forcing him to pay for the pollution he caused, everything changed. The price of coal rose, output fell, balance returned. It wasn't the end of progress, it was the start of responsibility. Because real wealth isn't just in profit, it's in the air we breathe, the water we share, and the life we keep alive.